Thanks, Caitlin. Now we're going to review the initial stages of the change that Qantas faced, as well as some possible motivations for change beyond the scope of the accidents themselves that Caitlin just outlined. Lewin's change model creates a guideline for the implementation of planned change. And while Qantas did not plan for these accidents, the model will be used to discuss the stages that Qantas is currently working through. The first stage that Lewin's has outlined is called unfreezing. Accidents, both major and minor, have turned all eyes onto Qantas, and Qantas has seemed to fail in its attempt to address the issue, especially immediately regarding the accidents as they happened. The problem is that Qantas has upheld a reputation for safety, but failed to be proactive in the recruitment of a newer fleet. All accidents have actually happened on the older models, and these are the models that are 737 and 400s in that range, and they weren't replaced at the same time as their Airbus and Boeing planes. Some criticized Qantas for breaking it up one model into the next. Some felt that they should just done it in one sweep, and because they did not do it in one sweep, they took the risk of these older planes malfunctioning. Internal motivation to change is incredibly crucial in Lewin's model, and in Qantas' situation, it actually happened as the change was occurring. Some of it before, some of it during. The first aspect of it was the engineering. Despite qualms from the engineering department, Qantas has steadily increased their offshore outsourcing of airplane maintenance. Some of the engineers who previously were responsible for maintenance in-house lost their jobs. They were taken right from under their feet and given to other employees offshore. And so that created some bitterness within Qantas already. Now, this was before the accidents actually happened, so this was prior to the change that Qantas was experiencing. One engineer said, "Qantas engineers in the past had simply been driven by the need to do the best job they possibly could. Now it appears they have to do the best job they possibly can within a budget." Low morale came about throughout the engineering department. There was fear of layoffs, increased stress due to the cost cutting that was going on, and in some aspects it was beginning to become a hostile environment. And the risk that comes along with that is that the work that was being done in-house could have suffered because of the low morale. Now, the reaction actually spread to the flight crew once safety concerns began to rise. This is once the accidents already began to happen and the reputation for safety was being questioned. In particular, the flight attendants began to fear for their safety while working. They were on these flights, they wanted to be sure that these flights weren't going to malfunction. It was happening more and more and more. Some accidents actually happened within a week of each other. So the flight attendants got together, they bypassed their immediate supervisors, and they contacted top Qantas officials in order to hold a special meeting. The attendants wanted assurance that all planes were as safe as possible. And what Qantas did right was they welcomed it. They said, okay, you're concerned for your safety, this is the most important part of your job, you're more than welcome to this meeting. And so they held it, and it fueled the Civil Aviation Safety Authority, also called CASA, to formally investigate Qantas's maintenance and safety systems. Both the flight attendants and the engineers that we talked about before encouraged the investigation. Now, Qantas reacted in a couple of ways. The first, and possibly the most important to the public, was that it accepted full responsibility for its accidents. It's preparing for a likely compensation bill related to one of these incidents, so it is, monetarily facing the consequences of the accidents, possibly due to the outsourcing, possibly due to the cost cutting, but nonetheless, regardless of whether or not it was an external or internal thing, they took responsibility. Maintenance staff associated with one accident were actually immediately suspended upon finding out that this accident happened. Qantas said, we're going to strip them of their positions temporarily, we're going to find out what's going on, and while the investigation is still ongoing, these employees are going to have to stay at home. They also remained publicly confident in their safety record. Although the public was skeptical, competitors were skeptical, they kept their confidence. They said, we have no issue with this latest review. And CASA says it has no evidence to suggest that safety standards have fallen. We agree, and we are totally confident that these checks will confirm the integrity of our engineering and maintenance operations and our commitment to safety. Now, this was said by David Cox. Qantas had previously recognized the need for new aircraft, and they're still in the process of phasing out their old fleet. This is part of the problem. But nonetheless, they did try to get this new fleet into the system. It's just that they didn't get the entire fleet replaced in time. Also, you know, they did accept responsibility. They're remaining publicly confident, but some of the basic things that they're doing that they found out happen across airlines, whether or not they have such a good reputation for safety, is that they've canceled some flights, they've substituted aircraft, and they've delayed some passengers, just like every airline does. So they're looking at these benchmarks and they're saying, okay, other airlines are doing it, and even though our customers might get frustrated if their flight's canceled or delayed for an hour, we're going to do it to maintain the safety. So in closing, one of the most important things with the unfreezing stage is to be proactive. And the problem with Qantas's reaction to the change is that it had to be reactive. You know, they had that mishap with the time lag between their new fleet coming in. They answered to those consequences, and had they planned better for the future, they might not have faced this. And now we're going to move on to the next stage in Lewin's model.